Chapter 54:36. Everyone was shocked when they heard Bachan's words. They did have such thoughts, but because their strength was too weak, without a strong enough leader, they had no way to achieve this. Moreover, the inheritance of the dark attribute had disappeared for many years. They did not even have the cultivation method, so how could they become strong? However, the man in front of them was different from them. He had a powerful background, extraordinary influence, and most importantly, he had the cultivation method of the dark energy. This was what attracted everyone the most. As long as they knew the cultivation method, they could become stronger. Otherwise, everything was just talk on paper. Bachan paid attention to everyone's expressions. He could clearly feel that most of the cultivators were excited and hopeful after hearing this. It was obvious that this was what they were thinking. Of course, there were also some who did not care. This was also within his expectations. No matter how good Huang Futing's judgment was, he could not guarantee that everyone was of one mind. Young Master D, are you really willing to lead us to become stronger? A cultivator could not help but ask. The oppressive life these years had almost caused him to break down. He really did not want to live such a life of hiding anymore. Puffing out his chest, being an upright person, and no longer being discriminated against by others. This was his current dream. Stop dreaming. He's the young master of the D family. Why should he help you become stronger? A cultivator mocked. He did not believe such words at all. Sensing that everyone's eyes were on him, Zhao Jian did not care. He said, "Why don't you think about it carefully? He has such a noble status and can have anything he wants. Why should he take the risk to help you? What help can you give him? You can't help him at all. Stop daydreaming." Everyone who was originally excited felt as if a bucket of cold water had been poured over their heads, chilling them to the core. Although this was cruel, it was also the truth. They could not help Bachan at all. On the contrary, they needed Bachan's help. If it were them, they would not really help. Every man for himself, and the devil takes the hindmost. Over the years, they understood this very well. Bachan remained calm as he looked at the ever-changing expressions of the crowd. In fact, he never expected all of these cultivators to believe in him. However, as long as they chose to believe in him, he would definitely not disappoint them. I know everyone has doubts about why I chose to help you, but everything I said is true. Since the day I received the darkness inheritance, I've treated this as my responsibility. If you're willing to believe me, you can continue to stay here. If you don't, I don't mind if you leave. After all, I don't need half-hearted people. Bachan's face was slightly cold. He just calmly and indifferently looked at the crowd, waiting for them to make a choice. Hearing this, Zhao Jian could not help but sneer. Do you really think you're so great just because you're the young master of an aristocratic family? I won't fall for your tricks. As he spoke, he gazed at the others and said, I'm leaving first. If all of you want to stay here and be captured by the Radiant Sacred Assembly, then that's your problem. Chapter 54:37. The crowd did not know what to do. Now that Zhao Jian took the lead, many cultivators chose to leave after some hesitation. Zhao Jian's words were cruel, but they were also the truth. Even if Bachan and Bailey Hongzhuang's words were shocking, their years of experience made them understand that there was no free lunch. If there was no reason, the other party would not help them like this. Huang Futing could not help but want to say something after seeing many cultivators choose to leave, but he was stopped by Bachan. Now, he was going to choose the first batch of people to join the Dark Sacred Assembly. He needed 100% loyalty, and no problems were allowed. If they were not on the same side, they would only cause trouble if they continued to stay with them. Even if there were fewer people, they could still slowly become stronger. Establishing the Dark Sacred Assembly was never something that could be done in a short period of time. It was not until dozens of people left that the situation stopped. Compared to before, the cultivators who stayed were undoubtedly much better. At least, there was no disdain or ridicule in their eyes. "Do you believe in me?" Di Baichen asked slowly. Everyone fell silent, but one of the cultivators said, just as Zhao Jian said, "We're of no help to you. But at the same time, with your identity, even if you want to deal with us, you don't have to spend so much effort." There were often two sides to everything. Zhao Jian only saw one side, and he thought of the other side. If Di Baichen and Bailey Hongzhuang really wanted to catch all of them in one fell swoop, then they did not have to come. They could have just sent people to encircle them. Why waste their breath here? That's right. Everyone nodded. This was undoubtedly the most important reason. Other than that, we also believe in Big Brother Huangfu. All these years, if Big Brother Huangfu didn't lead us to rescue the other brothers, many of us would have died. We believe that Big Brother Huangfu would never lie to us. Everyone looked sincere. They had nothing now. Even if they had to give up their lives in exchange for a possibility, they would be willing. From the moment Huangfu Ting went to find Di Baichen, they had already cut off all means of retreat and were prepared to give up everything. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at everything in front of her in silence. She deeply felt everyone's faith. If he hadn't been forced into a dead end, he wouldn't have made such a choice. However, everyone was also lucky because their decision was not wrong. Di Baichen glanced at Huangfu Ting and saw that Huangfu Ting was also touched. Everyone trusted him so much, which proved that his years of hard work had not been in vain. "I'm very happy that everyone is willing to believe in me, and I promise everyone that I will do my best to help everyone become stronger. Everything I've said before is true. As a practitioner of the darkness attribute, I'm just a little luckier than all of you. I haven't been abandoned by my family. I hope that everyone in the upper realm can change their view of the dark forces. I also hope that no matter where we appear in the future, we won't be discriminated against by others." Everyone's eyes were focused on Di Baichen. His words had struck a chord in everyone's heart. This was their desire. Chapter 54:38. My goal is to establish the Dark Sacred Assembly. As soon as these words came out, the entire courtyard suddenly quieted down. It was so quiet that even a pin drop could be heard. Almost everyone's eyes widened as they looked at Di Baichen in disbelief. They even suspected that they had misheard. Only Bailey Hongzhuang and Huangfu Ting were relatively calm. Even if it was the second time Huangfu Ting had heard these words, he still couldn't help but feel shock. This was simply the dream of all dark attribute cultivators. Dark Sacred Assembly? Did I hear wrongly? Is it the Dark Sacred Assembly? How is this possible? Even though everyone felt that this was simply an impossible thing, they still couldn't help but feel excited. This was really too exciting. If such a day really came, it would be the moment they dreamed of. Di Baichen's voice was steady and full of power, clearly transmitting into everyone's ears. Everyone didn't hear wrongly. It's the Dark Sacred Assembly. Darkness and light are opposites. Since the Light Sacred Assembly exists, we naturally can't just be the Dark Guild. The power of darkness has never been weak. We have been discriminated against and bullied for so long. It's time for us to stand up. Di Baichen looked at everyone with shining eyes. Every word was full of power, shaking everyone's hearts. How powerful was the power of darkness in the past? It used to make cultivators of other attributes tremble in fear, and now we can do the same. Di Baichen's words were like flames, igniting everyone's blood. Everyone's eyes were filled with excitement. That surging feeling could not be expressed with words. Indeed, the power of darkness in the past was so powerful. They had never been trash. As long as they became stronger, no one would be able to look down on them anymore. Of course, this is not an easy thing to do, but there is always a way. As long as we are firm in our beliefs, we will eventually achieve it. I just want to ask everyone now. Are you willing to work together with me for the power of darkness to reappear tomorrow? We are willing. Almost at the moment Di Baichen's voice fell, everyone shouted without hesitation. They were willing. Even if they had to give up their lives for all of this, they were also willing. For that kind of future, everything was worth it. Bailey Hongzhuang quietly looked at this scene. Looking at the handsome man in front of her who was supported by everyone, the corners of her lips unconsciously raised into a proud smile. That was her man. Di Beichen, who was serious, always emitted a charming aura, like the noon sun, shining and dazzling. Before the dark sacred assembly is officially established, I hope that everyone can keep this secret. I also hope to see everyone's sincerity. Di Beichen Stn and gazed at everyone. If he was alone, he wouldn't have to worry about all of this. But now, he had his lover, family, and friends behind him, so he couldn't ignore all the risk. Facing Di Beichen's words, no one hesitated. Right now, they had no way out. This was the only path that could lead them to greatness. Therefore, they no longer hesitated and chose to believe. Even if they were wrong in the future, they were willing to bear the consequences. Chapter 5439. As Di Beichen fused his blood into the totem, the other cultivators did not hesitate. One by one, they fused their blood into the totem and walked to the other side. When all the cultivators were done, the golden totem was dyed red with blood, adding a hint of strangeness and mystery to it. However, just when everyone thought it was over, Bailey Hongzhuang fused her blood into the totem as well. Seeing this scene, everyone could not help but be stunned. At the same time, the alliance contract had come into effect. This meant that if any of them were to have any thoughts of betrayal in the future, they would definitely be punished by the contract. Everyone looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in shock. No one thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would do this. It was too shocking. If they were still a little worried before, they were no longer worried at all. They had underestimated the relationship between Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen. Even if she was the Saint of Light, it did not affect their relationship at all. Di Beichen's heart was in turmoil. Actually, Bailey Hongzhuang did not need to do this, but she did it to support him. His wife was the best in the world. Everyone suddenly felt that their attitude towards Bailey Hongzhuang was too much. It turned out that Bailey Hongzhuang was on the same side as them. What was more precious was that she was of the light attribute, but did not discriminate against them at all. They had not felt this way for a long time, so they felt it even more deeply. I will arrange for your accommodations later. This city is not far from my family and is also under the influence of the Di family. Therefore, I plan to let you stay here. It will be very convenient for me to come and go here. What do you think? We will listen to the president's arrangements. Everyone smiled. After establishing the contract, everyone felt closer to each other. They were not as nervous as before. This was because they were now on the same side. They would not betray each other. Hearing this, the corners of Di Beichen's mouth rose slightly. You must be tired during this time. It's better to rest for 2 days. I will write down the cultivation method of the power of darkness for you to cultivate accordingly. Similarly, don't spread this cultivation technique to others. All of you are well aware of what happened back then. If it is used by someone with bad intentions and the same thing happens again, then the darkness attribute will never be able to wash itself clean. Di Beichen warned everyone. If I find out that someone is using this power to do bad things, I will never forgive them. Yes. Everyone nodded. They didn't want the same thing to happen again. If it weren't for what happened back then, they wouldn't have been treated like this. However, everyone couldn't help but be excited. They were finally going to get the cultivation method. For so many years, they had tried all sorts of methods but to no avail. Now, Di Beichen had selflessly handed the method to them. This made them feel extremely grateful to Di Beichen. They kept this feeling in their hearts. They would never forget this kindness. From today onwards, Di Beichen was the person they were willing to sacrifice their lives for. Humans were like this. It was precisely because no one had shown them enough kindness over the years that they were willing to give up everything when they received such kindness. Chapter 5440. The Emperor Cloud City was the city closest to the D family. Many cultivators from the D family lived here. Because of the many years of inheritance, the number of descendants of the family branch was also very considerable. Over time, such a huge city was formed. This situation was like the relationship between the Shao family and the Piercing Wind City, which was extremely close. With D Baichen's status, it was undoubtedly a simple matter to divide an area for everyone to live in. Moreover, Diu Jue had long expected such a situation, so everything went very smoothly. When Huang Fu Ting looked at the cultivation method of the dark force that Di Baichen handed over to him, his heart was filled with emotions. He did not expect that everything would go so smoothly. He originally thought of countless possibilities and understood that the possibility of being rejected was the highest, or he would be ridiculed and insulted by the other party. However, he never thought that he would be treated with such respect and treatment. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Baichen had never been high and mighty. On the contrary, even though they had signed a master-servant contract, Di Baichen had never treated him as a servant. From this point, one could see their character. He was also very glad. Perhaps after so many years of bad luck, the heavens finally opened their eyes and let good luck fall on them. Young Master Di, thank you. Huang Fu Ting stared at Di Baichen, his eyes heavy and full of gratitude. The cultivation method in his hand was the hope of all of them, and it was also generously given by Di Baichen. He only felt that the book in his hand was heavy and filled his heart. Hearing this, Di Baichen smiled faintly. Huang Fu, don't be so formal in the future. Just call me Baichen. Young master, Huang Fu Ting was slightly stunned. He was a servant. Don't call me young master. I know that your identity was not simple in the past, but your luck was not good enough, so now you have fallen to this point. You are also a cultivation genius. Although you have been delayed for some years, you still have a chance to catch up with everyone. Although this is a master-servant contract, I treat you as a good friend and a good helper. I hope you can do the same. Di Baichen had felt some sympathy for Huang Fu Ting when he learned about what had happened to him, and when he learned that Huang Fu Ting was willing to make such a huge sacrifice for everyone, he felt even more admiration for him. Such a person was worthy of admiration. Huang Fu Ting looked deeply at Di Baichen. After seeing the sincerity in his clear eyes, a bright smile appeared on his face. All right. Huang Fu Ting nodded heavily. Baichen. When Bailey Hongzhuang saw this scene, she smiled knowingly and said, You guys should work hard during this period of time. After a few days, think of a way to obtain cultivation resources. We will definitely work hard. After Huang Fu Ting left, Bailey Hongzhuang sat down beside Di Baichen. Among so many people, there are many cultivation geniuses like Huang Fu Ting. I believe that their cultivation speed should be very fast. Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly, but in terms of cultivation resources, we have to think of a way. All cultivators needed cultivation resources. If there were no cultivation resources, then it would take more energy to increase the same level. Chapter 5441. Indeed, this is a problem. Di Baichen's extremely dark eyes were filled with complexity and contemplation. This was also a problem that he had thought of earlier. Although the Di family had a lot of cultivation resources, there were also many family members. Usually, the family members worked very hard to fight for enough cultivation resources. If Di Baichen were to give the cultivation resources that belonged to the other family members to Huang Fu Ting and the others, it would undoubtedly be very unfair to the family members. Now that he had made such a decision, it had already hurt everyone's interests. He definitely could not affect the family in other ways. Moreover, even if he were to take out a certain amount of cultivation resources from the family now, it would only be temporary. In the future, as the team gradually grew stronger, it would be impossible to do so. Actually, I think that cultivation resources should be fought for with one's own hands. Only this way will it be more cherished. In the process of obtaining resources, everyone's strength can also be improved. They've been through so much hardship all these years. Their mentality and experience are incomparable to that of ordinary family members. I believe that they'll do well. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were bright, and a confident glow lingered on her pretty face. People who grew up in adversity often had tenacity and perseverance that others did not have. This was also extremely important for cultivators. Di Baichen nodded. You're right. I've also noticed this. What they need the most now is an opportunity. Compared to other cultivators, they'll seize all of this more. However, it's not easy to find cultivation resources. Are we going to let them go to the mercenary guild? Actually, there's nothing wrong with that. We have enough people. As long as they're more vigilant and don't let other cultivators join the team, they can still accept mercenary missions. When they're strong enough, we can let them go to the forest world to train. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. The forest world was a very good place to train, and there were many precious treasures of heaven and earth there. They had already understood this very clearly after going there many times. The cultivation resources there seemed to be more abundant than the upper realm. However, the demon beasts there were extremely powerful. Even they had to be careful when entering. The slightest carelessness could lead to injury or even death. The cultivations of Huang Futing and the others had obviously not arrived at their level, and it would be extremely dangerous if they went there. Instead of losing their lives for no reason, it was better to use other methods first. If they go to the forest world, won't your secret be exposed? Di Baichen shook his head. That won't do. He understood that this was indeed a very good method, but he could not put Hongzhuang in danger. When the time comes, we can block their 5 senses and let them enter. As long as they don't know where it is, it's fine. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. The Chaos Ring had such a good resource. If she didn't use it, it would be too wasteful. We'll see when the time comes. Let's see how they perform during this period of time. When Huang Fu comes back, we can ask him for his opinion. Di Baichen's expression was calm. The reason why they're in such dire straits is because they don't have a cultivation method and aren't strong enough. Once they have a way to cultivate, I believe that they will quickly become powerful. Chapter 54-42. After Huang Futing brought the cultivation method back to the group of cultivators, they quickly copied the cultivation method. Although they had not started cultivating it yet, just by looking at the contents, they knew that there was definitely no problem with the cultivation method. Because they did not have the cultivation method, their strength had been stagnant all these years. They had tried many methods to cultivate, but they had not succeeded. Looking at the secret manual in their hands, they had a completely different feeling after roughly sensing it. It was obvious that this was the real thing. That's great. We have a cultivation method. My cultivation has been stagnant for so many years. This feeling is really unbearable. Now we finally have a chance to improve. Young Master D is really a good person. We don't have anything, but he's willing to help us like this. Everyone could not hide the excitement on their faces. This feeling was like a person who was about to die of thirst in the desert finally seeing an oasis, giving them hope to live. Huang Futing looked at everyone's happy faces, and a smile appeared on his face. This kind of cultivation method was simply too precious to them. However, in the next moment, his expression turned grave, and there was a trace of seriousness. Young Master D has helped us so selflessly. I hope that everyone will remember his kindness. He doesn't need to bear this at all, but because he wants to help us, he has to bear this responsibility. If anyone here dares to betray him, I'll definitely be the first to stand up. I won't give up even if I have to chase them to the ends of the earth. Huang Futing's cold and resolute gaze swept across everyone. He rarely showed such a ruthless and overbearing side, but after understanding Di Baichen's character, he felt that he had to do all of this. Since Di Baichen had taken on the responsibility of leading the powerful darkness attribute, he also had to take on the responsibility of protecting Di Baichen. He would never allow anyone to have any disloyalty. If he found out, he would use the cruelest method to make them regret it for the rest of their lives. As soon as Huang Fu-Ting's voice fell, everyone who was originally immersed in joy seemed to have been alerted. Their expressions restrained a little, and a serious expression appeared on their faces at the same time. Even if Huang Fu-Ting had always helped them, they were clearly aware that once Huang Fu-Ting became serious and ruthless, then it wasn't something that an ordinary person could endure. So, in their eyes, Huang Fu-Ting was a responsible and dignified existence. Big brother Huang Fu, don't worry. Young Master Di is so sincere to us. If any of us betrayed him, then we would really be animals. That's right. If I find such a person, I definitely won't let him off easily. Unless we are not human, otherwise, who would betray a good person like young Master Di? Almost everyone's eyes were filled with sincerity. Even without Huang Fu-Ting's reminder, they had already made up their minds. For so many years, they had endured too much ridicule, sarcasm, and belittlement. However, other than themselves, no one had extended a helping hand to them. However, Di Baichen and Bailey Hongzhuang did it. Even if Di Baichen was also of the darkness attribute, his identity was completely different from theirs. Wouldn't it be a kind of pressure for Di Baichen to inexplicably carry a burden like theirs? Chapter 54-43. Even if Zhao Jian and the others who are also of the dark attribute come back to contact you, you can't say anything. Huang Fu-Ting's gaze was deep. From the moment they decided to leave, we were no longer on the same side. Do you understand? Understood. At present, apart from us, don't tell anyone else about this. As for whether we will continue to absorb dark attribute cultivators in the future, we will listen to young Master Di's arrangements. Huang Fu-Ting's gaze was distant, as if he was thinking of something from a long time ago. Everything was difficult at the beginning. In the early stages, they needed to be the most cautious. After their forces had expanded to a certain extent, even if the news spread, they would have the power to protect themselves. But now, once the news spread, what awaited them would be a devastating blow. He hoped to be able to be Di Baichen's helper and watch the day when the Dark Sacred Assembly was truly established. Yes. No one had any objections. From the moment Di Baichen and Bailey Hongzhuang were willing to sign the contract, they had already decided all of this. Looking at everyone's united appearance, Huang Fu-Ting's face also revealed a heartfelt smile. Only in this way could he truly be at ease. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Baichen were worried about Huang Fu-Ting and the others, Di Yujue appeared. Father. When they saw Di Yujue suddenly appear, the two of them hurriedly bowed and spoke respectfully. Di Yujue smiled faintly. I'm here to see if you need my help. Has the matter been settled? It's settled. Di Baichen nodded slightly. At present, the results are not bad, and everyone is trustworthy. However, it will still take a lot of time to reach the final goal. This kind of thing can't be done in a short time. Don't worry. Di Yujue smiled faintly. A good start is already good enough. Father, thank you for being willing to support me. Di Baichen stared at Di Yujue, recalling the first time they met. His father had always supported him unconditionally. Why are you saying such polite words as a family? Your mother is also very supportive of you. Di Yujue chuckled. From the moment we knew that you had such attainments in the power of darkness, we had already guessed that you had probably obtained the inheritance of darkness. The cultivation method of the darkness attribute has disappeared for many years. All these years, there has never been a powerful darkness cultivator. However, you did it. Many things are predestined. You were able to obtain a fortuitous encounter that so many people couldn't. This is your luck and strength. We will support you unconditionally. We. Bailey Hongzhuang secretly sighed in her heart. Diujue was indeed worthy of being the head of the family. His expression would not change even if Mount Tai collapsed in front of him. He could face such a big matter so calmly. Diujue then looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. You should thank Hongzhuang properly. As the Holy Maiden of the Light, she is willing to support you in this. If it were anyone else, they would not be able to do it. Chapter 54-44. Hearing this, Di Baichen couldn't help but laugh. Father doesn't need to remind me, I've already thanked you. It's all thanks to Hongzhuang that I thought through all this. This is what I should do, and there's nothing wrong with the dark energy itself. I think this is also something that benefits everyone. Just from what they saw, there were 200 cultivators living a dark life, and what they didn't see was a huge number. These people should have had a good life, but once they woke up, all the good things disappeared completely. If the dark energy was no longer discriminated, then everyone wouldn't have to worry about these problems. Diujue sighed and looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. There weren't many young people as sensible as Bailey Hongzhuang. On the contrary, young people like Xiao Sei-wu, who were unreasonable, accounted for a larger portion of them. In the past, he thought that Xiao So was also very good, but now it seemed that Xiao So couldn't be compared to Hongzhuang at all. According to my judgment, these cultivators probably don't have any cultivation resources, right? Do you need my help? Diujue said slowly. Although it was a question, his tone was very certain. From the moment Di Baichen told him about this situation, he had already expected it. Seeing that Diujue took the initiative to mention this, Di Baichen was stunned at first, then smiled and said, Father, we will think of a way. The cultivation resources that so many cultivators need are not easy to get. If you need help, just say it, don't hesitate. Diujue said seriously. Father, I understand that you want to help me, but I don't want to take up the cultivation resources of the family disciples. Also, I believe that we will think of a way. Di Baichen was touched. In order to help him, his father even thought of these things. Seeing that Di Baichen was so certain, Diujue didn't say much. Then I hope that you can think of a good way. If there's really no way, don't think too much, just come to me directly. I definitely will. Di Baichen nodded. Seeing that Diujue was about to leave, he said, Father, tell Mother not to worry. I will. Watching Diujue leave, Di Baichen still didn't look away. Although Lin Yunqing didn't come today, he knew very well that his mother was probably more worried about him than his father. It could be seen from how his mother almost died of depression after he went missing. As a son, he couldn't make his mother feel at ease. On the contrary, she had to worry about him. He was actually very ashamed. Actually, after you came back, Mother's mood has improved a lot. In addition, Father is by Mother's side now, so the situation is different from before. Bailey Hongzhuang hugged Di Baichen from behind, her beautiful face pressed against Di Baichen's back. Mother used to be like that because she resisted everything outside, but it's different now. Di Baichen held Bailey Hongzhuang's hands that were wrapped around his waist, the corners of his mouth slowly blossoming into a sunny smile. Wife, I often think that I'm really lucky. If I didn't go to the lower realm back then, I wouldn't have met you. When I think that you might be with another man, I'll definitely go crazy with anger. Pfft. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but laugh. If you don't know me, then even if I'm with another man, you won't be angry. Maybe you've found another suitable woman. Chapter 54-45. Looking at the deep eyes that were so close to her, Bailey Hongzhuang's heart was shaken by the deep affection in his eyes. Suddenly, her lips curled into a playful and enchanting smile. So, you have to thank me properly. Without me, you would have been single for the rest of your life. Indeed. Di Baichen nodded. Just saying thank you is not enough. I have to show my sincerity with actions. Bailey Hongzhuang was slightly stunned. Before she could react, Di Baichen had already carried her to the bed. Baichen, you don't have to be so polite. That won't do. Your husband has always been very sincere. Ugh! Before she could finish, her lips were already covered by his warm lips. Beichen, my clothes, it's fine. Your husband will help you put them on later. In the next few days, Huang Fu-ting and the others had been focused on cultivating. They did not come to find Di Beichen. However, as the day of their trip to the Ao family drew closer, everyone's hearts began to waver. I told Daiheoan 3 days later, and Di Zhuai's 5 days later. When the time comes, we just have to see when the Jun family arrives. Then we can be sure. Di Beichen's expression was serious. In fact, he hoped that his judgment was wrong. He really did not want one of the two to be a spy. Di Yujua nodded slightly. Can you be sure that the two of them did not exchange information? No. After they came back, they went into seclusion and did not come out. Moreover, I have already talked to the others. There won't be any problems. That's good. Now we just have to wait and see. Di Yujua's eyes were deep. Even though he had already locked onto the suspicious person, he still could not figure out the reason. If it was Daiheoan, then it would be easier to explain. However, if it was Daiheoan, then it really did not make sense. However, Di Beichen was even more certain that the spy was Daiheoan. The day before everyone prepared to leave for the Jun family, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen went to Huang Fu-ting and the others' residence. Seeing Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang arrive, everyone naturally came out to welcome them. Of course, other than some cultivators who were in seclusion. Di Beichen, why are you here? Huang Fu-ting could not hide his surprise. You guys are busy people. We came to see how your progress. With a slight smile on his jade-like face. Everyone's cultivation progress has been pretty good recently. Everyone is working very hard without slacking off at all. Huang Fu-ting reported the situation seriously. There are also some extremely fast cultivators who have already broken through. That's good. Di Beichen nodded. With your current situation, I'm afraid your progress will be slower without cultivation resources. What are your plans? We also thought of this, so we plan to go to the Mercenary Union to take some missions. Hearing this, Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang looked at each other and smiled faintly. Seeing this, Huang Fu-ting asked with some confusion, Is there a problem? No. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head. It's because we thought of the same thing. However, with your situation, you must be more careful when you go to the Mercenary Union. Chapter 54-46. Huang Fu-ting was very confident about this. Over the years, they had not mastered many other things, but their ability to hide was getting stronger and stronger. Since you're so confident, we're relieved. Di Beichen's expression relaxed a little and he continued, We'll be going out for a few days. I'll contact you when we're back. Huang Fu-ting nodded. I understand. I'll look after everyone. Don't worry. Di Beichen smiled and nodded. I'm relieved when you're handling things. Even though they had only known each other for a short period of time, he was already very clear about Huang Fu-ting's ability. Leading such a large team and convincing everyone was not an easy task in itself. The fact that he could do it was already proof of his ability. Right, this is for you. Bailey Hongzhuang handed a Qiankuan bag to Huang Fu-ting. There are some pills in here that can help you break through. It should be very helpful for everyone's current situation. Speaking of which, it was fortunate that everyone had obtained a lot of medicinal herbs in the Immortal Cloud Mystery Realm. Some basic medicinal herbs were no longer of much help to their current cultivation. However, to everyone who was still in the Starlight Realm, it was undoubtedly very useful. Everyone had not cultivated properly for so long, nor did they have any cultivation resources. Presumably, the effects of consuming pills would be better. It was impossible for her to obtain sufficient cultivation resources for everyone, but this amount of cultivation resources was still possible. Hearing this, Huang Fu-ting was slightly taken aback. With a sweep of his spiritual sense, he discovered that there were many pills in the Qiankuan bag. Hongzhuang, thank you so much. It's simply a timely rain. Huang Fu-ting did not expect Bailey Hongzhuang to actually give him such precious things. For a moment, he was somewhat flustered. I don't even know how to thank you on behalf of everyone. Seeing Huang Fu-ting's uncontrollable excitement, Bailey Hongzhuang was also somewhat surprised. She hurriedly waved her hand and said, Huang Fu, you don't have to be so polite. I'm just doing my best. However, Bailey Hongzhuang did not know how precious all of this was to Huang Fu-ting. Even if they were friends in the past, they wouldn't be so generous as to give away such resources. This kind of timely help was really too precious. No, this is too precious for us. Huang Fu-ting's expression was serious. Thank you so much. Noticing the sincerity in her clear eyes, Bailey Hongzhuang's smile became even more sincere. We are good friends. Huang Fu-ting nodded heavily. That's right. In the future, I won't hesitate to go through fire and water for you. When Huang Fu-ting sent Di Beichen out of the house, he told the other cultivators about this matter. He hoped that everyone could understand how precious this gift was and that it was worth protecting with their lives. Perhaps this was a piece of cake for Bailey Hongzhuang, but it was definitely not the case for them. After everyone heard this news, their expressions were no different from Huang Fu-ting's. In fact, this level of medicinal pill was very precious. Just finding an alchemist to refine it was already a huge expense. Even if one went to a medicinal pill store to buy it, it would still be at a high price. Moreover, this amount was definitely a huge sum of money. Thank you, young Master D. Thank you, Miss Bailey. We will never forget this kindness. Chapter 54-47. Perhaps it was because she had been exposed to too many schemes, slander, and ridicule, but such sincere feelings made her feel precious. Although they had only known each other for a short time, these people were very real. After Zhao Jian left that day, he did not leave Emperor Cloud City because he was waiting for news of the Radiant Sacred Assembly's encirclement of Huang Fu-ting and the others. He did not believe that Di Beichen would be so kind unless there was something wrong with his head. However, he and the others waited in Emperor Cloud City for a long time, but they did not receive any news. The next day, when they went to the courtyard house again, they found that it was empty. There was no one there at all. This made them feel extremely strange. They could not understand where these people had gone. Brother Zhao, what Di Beichen said can't be true, right? Did everyone really follow him to the Di family? A cultivator following Zhao Jian could not help but ask. There was a trace of regret in his heart. If what Di Beichen said was true, then they had really lost a good future. Don't talk nonsense. Zhao Jian's face instantly turned cold. Anyone with a brain knows that what Di Beichen said can't be true. If it were you, would you do that? After being reprimanded by Zhao Jian, the man fell silent. Then where could they have gone? I always feel that we should have figured out the situation before leaving. No matter what, Di Beichen has a cultivation method. Many people had already begun to regret. They should not have left with Zhao Jian at that time. At first, they were waiting to leave first and then watch everyone make a fool of themselves. But now that there was no news at all, they felt that they might have become a joke instead. Even if he has a cultivation method, he won't tell you. Zhao Jian retorted. In the next few days, you should look around Emperor Cloud City and see if you can find any traces of them. If you can't find them, then they must have been taken away by the Radiant Sacred Assembly. Listening to Zhao Jian's words, no one took it seriously. With more than 100 people, even if the Radiant Sacred Assembly wanted to take them away, they would definitely struggle. It was impossible for there to be no news at all. Thinking about it, it was more likely that everyone had followed him willingly. Right now, they still didn't know that when they met those friends again in the future, they would be completely different in the blink of an eye. 3 days had passed. When Ziren and the others knew that today was an important day, so they had already gathered early. There was no need to mention Ao Ling Xiao. He had waited for this day for far too long. However, when the day finally arrived, his feelings were extremely complicated. On one hand, he really wanted to return to the Ao clan. However, when he thought of his family's misunderstanding of him, he understood that it would not be an easy matter to make everyone believe in him. Even so, he still wouldn't back down. He had to find a way to make everyone believe in him, even if he had to pay the price with his life. At the very least, he could not let Ao Jun Kwang continue to be the patriarch of the Ao clan. Otherwise, it would not be long before the Ao clan would be destroyed by Ao Jun Kwang. The Jun family wasn't a good family to begin with. Now that the Ao family was a vassal, it was fine. But, in time, the Jun family might even swallow up the Ao family. That was something he couldn't accept. Chapter 54-48. That's right. I don't think that Ao Junkwang is that great. He just took the initiative to distort the truth. If you explain yourself this time, I think you still have a chance. Shangguan Yingying's expression was serious. She always felt that Ao Lingxiao was too pitiful to suffer such a big loss for no reason. If he couldn't clear his name, even the heavens wouldn't be able to stand it. You'll definitely be fine. Mo Yunjua also said, "We're all here." Seeing that everyone was cheering for him, Ao Lingxiao also smiled and nodded, "Thank you all. I also believe that I will succeed. We're all here. You don't have to worry." Di Beichen slowly walked closer. He had already heard everyone's conversation from afar. "This is all thanks to you. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't even be able to go back." At this time, Dai Haoan also appeared. "Are we still not leaving?" "We're about to leave." Dai Haoan glanced at the surrounding people. After realizing that he didn't see Di Zhai's, he couldn't help but ask, "Where's Zhai's?" "Zhai's is on the verge of breaking through these 2 days. He's in seclusion, so we won't disturb him," Di Xiaofeng explained. "I see." However, even though everyone was gathered here, they didn't immediately leave. Not for any other reason, but because they were waiting for the news from the spies. The Ao family and the Di family used to have a very close relationship, so there was a teleportation array between them. It was actually very convenient to go back and forth. Long ago, they had already sent people to stay near the Ao family to see if there were any traces of the Jun family and the Xiao family. As the waiting time gradually became longer, many people were a little restless. However, no one said anything. After all, the young master was still here. Not long after, Di Yujue and the other elders also arrived. Seeing this scene, everyone was even more confused. Could it be that even the family head is going to the Ao family today? If that's the case, then isn't this a little too scary? Could it be that they're worried that the Jun family has an ambush, so they're doing this? The group of cultivators looked at each other as countless guesses surfaced in their minds. After seeing this scene, Dai Haoan's gaze also quietly changed a little, but this strange look disappeared in the blink of an eye, and his face quickly returned to a calm expression. Not long after, a cultivator rushed over and reported the news to Di Beichen. After hearing this news, Di Beichen's expression suddenly changed. When he looked at Dai Haoan again, his gaze had become fierce. "According to the report of the spies, the Jun family's troops have already appeared in the vicinity of the Ao family, and are only waiting for us to go over." Di Beichen narrowed his eyes slightly. His originally gentle black pupils had unknowingly turned gloomy and filled with a fierce, murderous aura. Along with this voice, there was a burst of exclamations from the audience. Only Di Xiaofeng and the others, who already knew about this plan, fixed their gazes on Dai Haoan. There was no longer the gentleness and kindness from before, only coldness and murderous intent. "All along, we knew that there was a spy in the family. However, we never thought that the spy would actually be you, Dai Haoan." The low and hoarse voice was filled with shock, pain, and disbelief. The cold light that flashed through his eyes made people shudder. Chapter 54-49. Time seemed to have stopped. Everyone was stunned and looked at Di Beichen and Dai Haoan in shock. This news was too shocking. Even if they heard it clearly, they still felt that it was all an illusion. Daehaeon's expression froze for a moment. Then, he forced a smile and said, "Baechan, what did you say? How could I be a spy?" "Yes, how and can't be a spy." The second elder quickly stood up and explained. His weathered face was full of seriousness and seriousness. "What reason does he have to be a spy? I only told how and about this 3-day agreement. How did the Jun family and the Shao family know?" Baechan's eyes were locked on Daehaeon. His sharp eyes seemed to be able to see through everything. "We already suspected you a long time ago. We just didn't show it because we didn't believe you would do this. This time, we decided to use this opportunity to test you. Other than you, no one knew about this beforehand. But now that the Jun family is already prepared, how can you explain this?" The low and hoarse voice was full of certainty and judgment. It didn't allow any quibbling. "Jirais also knows," Daehaeon argued. "I can't be the only one who knows about this. How can you push everything to me? I told Jirais that it would be the day after tomorrow, so he's still cultivating in his room." As soon as this was said, Daehaeon was slightly stunned. His mouth was open, but he couldn't say a word. This situation was really beyond his expectations. Not only Baechan, but Xiaofeng and Yujia also seemed to have seen through everything. Their calm and indifferent eyes made Daehaeon's body gradually turn cold. It was as if any explanation was useless. All of his tricks had been thoroughly seen through. "Master, you must understand this clearly. We can't wrongly accuse Hoan of such a serious crime." The second elder looked at Yujia nervously. "Although I don't know what is going on, you have watched Hoan grow up. Over the years, he has always done his best for the family. How could he do such a thing? It's precisely because of this that we never discovered it." Yujia shook his head and sighed. Even though he had already confirmed all of this, he still couldn't help but sigh when he saw it with his own eyes. As Yujia's voice fell, the second elder's feet trembled. He took 2 steps back and almost lost his balance. "Patriarch, you, second elder, don't say anything," Yujia said calmly. In the next second, he turned his gaze to Daehaeon. "Hoan, can you tell me why you did this?" Even though the evidence was conclusive, he still couldn't understand why Daehaeon would do this. "I'm not a spy." Daehaeon was still trying to explain. He definitely couldn't let this accusation be true. Otherwise, he would die without a burial place. Seeing that Daehaeon was still denying it at this time, Baechan gave Baechan a look. Soon, Xiaofeng grabbed another cultivator and brought them in front of Daehaeon. "You really won't cry until you see the coffin." Xiaofeng's voice was cold, and his eyes were as cold as ice. "You pretended to be in seclusion for the past 2 days, but before that you went to the resource room and talked to this guy for a while." Chapter 5450. Daehaeon's face changed when he saw the person who came. All the blood drained from his face, and he became pale and desperate. "We sent people to follow him and found that he took the opportunity to leave the purchasing team and passed the news to the Jun family. Now, he has confessed everything. Do you still want to deny it?" Xiaofeng looked at Daehaeon indifferently. He also couldn't believe that the good brother he had always thought of was a spy for the family. It was because of him that Baechan almost lost his life and his parents were separated for so many years. This kind of person who forgets his ancestors was too hateful. After the man saw Daehaeon, he quickly said, "Brother Hoan, you must save me. I don't want to die." After everyone saw this scene, they fell into silence. If they thought that Baechan might have made a mistake before, now it was proven that all of this was true. It was just that this was too hard to accept. Daehaeon is a spy. This is simply unbelievable. If the young master didn't come back this time, Daehaeon would have become the young master. There is actually a reason why he came so many years ago. But Daehaeon obviously didn't leak information for a day or 2. I really don't understand the reason so early. After the second elder saw the change in Daehaeon's expression, he already understood that everything Baechan said was true. Daehaeon was his son. After so many years, he was too familiar with Daehaeon's expression. Even if he didn't say anything, he already knew the result just by looking at his guilty expression. It's really you. The second elder seemed to have aged 10 years in an instant. His eyes turned red, filled with disbelief and pain. Why did you do this? He asked with a sigh, but it was as if everyone could see the second elder's bleeding heart. The family has always been good to you. Faced with the second elder's question, Daehaeon's face flashed with a trace of shame and helplessness. Looking at the face in front of him that had aged in an instant, Daehaeon opened his mouth and wanted to explain something, but in the end, he didn't say anything. However, the second elder saw Daehaeon's appearance and became even angrier. He rushed forward and grabbed the latter's collar with both hands and questioned loudly, "Tell me, why did you do this? Why?" Daehaeon let the second elder shake his body, but he kept his head down. "I have nothing to say." At this moment, everyone also understood that everything that Baechan said was true. Daehaeon was really the murderer who had been hiding in the family. However, everyone wanted to know the reason why Daehaeon did this. The Jun family and the D family were enemies, and the D family had never mistreated Daehaeon. They really couldn't understand. What kind of benefits did the Jun family promise Daehaeon to do such a thing? I'm afraid that this reason is not simple. Mo Yunjue's eyes were as deep as black, hiding a sharp luster, but his expression was a bit transparent. If he really hated the D family that much, he would have been unable to hold back and directly stated the reason after being found out. However, he has always looked like he found it difficult to say. I think he must have struggled in his heart. Chapter 54-51. I feel like Daehaeon wanted to tell us the reason, but after seeing the second elder's heartbroken expression, he swallowed his words. Could it be that there is a reason for the second elder to be even sadder than he is now? Bailey Hongzhuang had been paying attention to Daehaeon ever since Baechan identified Daehaeon as the spy. No matter who it was, there must be a reason for doing something. But they just couldn't figure out what Daehaeon's motive was. If it was for the position of the head of the family, then Daehaeon wouldn't have set up such a big trap all those years ago, right? Most importantly, why did the Jun family choose Daehaeon at that time? Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Baechan nodded slightly. I have the same feeling. He had also been paying attention to Daehaeon's expression, so after discovering this, he felt very strange. Since Daehaeon is a spy, then could the second elder be a spy as well? After confirming Daehaeon's identity as a spy, everyone couldn't help but turn their attention to the second elder. Daehaeon was the second elder's son. They didn't believe that the second elder was completely unaware. No matter how much pain the second elder showed, they still didn't believe it. I think it's very possible. At that time, Daehaeon was so young. How could he be a spy? Unless it was the second elder who ordered it. Usually, the second elder is always busy working for the family, and he doesn't care at all. Could it be that all this is a disguise? At this moment, everyone was confused. Speaking of which, the second elder seemed to have the least ambition for the family among all the elders. This was because the second elder had no interest in these power struggles. He had always been helping the family take care of all kinds of chores. These seemed to be small matters, but in fact, they were all very useful to the family. However, reality told them that the second elder was the possible spy. This completely overturned their understanding of the family. Seeing that everyone's attention had shifted to him, the second elder was stunned. Then, his face turned pale. He quickly explained, "It's not what you think. I'm not." However, the second elder's words were weak as he spoke. He felt that his explanation was ridiculous. Daehaeon's identity was confirmed, and there was no room for quibbling. But as the father, he didn't know. No one would believe him. After seeing that everyone began to suspect the second elder, Daehaeon couldn't help but feel anxious. He quickly said, "I'm the only one. It has nothing to do with my father. Don't wrongly accuse him." However, seeing Daehaeon defended the second elder was a spy to be a spy. He was a spy himself, so how could anyone believe his words? "Master, I really didn't know about this." The second elder looked at Ryujue dejectedly. Daehaeon's incident seemed to be a huge blow to him. He didn't know what to say. "However, as Hao An's father, I also have a lot of responsibility for what he did. So, I won't have any complaints if the family head decides to punish him." The second elder straightened his back and looked determined. However, when he looked at Daehaeon, his eyes were still filled with pain. "I've always taught you that the family is our root." Chapter 54-52. Even if I'm going to die, at least let me rest in peace. The second elder looked at Daehaeon with burning eyes. He couldn't understand why the child he had watched grow up, the child he had always been proud of, would do such a treacherous thing. Facing the second elder's gaze, Daehaeon felt even more ashamed. His eyes were slightly red, but he seemed to have something he couldn't say. "Father, it's all my fault. Just pretend you never had a son like me. It's not worth being sad." Daehaeon's eyes overflowed with tears. He suddenly raised his head and looked at Ryujue. "Master, this is all my fault, but my father really didn't know. Over the years, he has done so many things for the family. Even if he didn't make any contributions, he still worked hard. No matter how you punish me, I hope you won't implicate my father. He really didn't do anything to let the family down." Daehaeon breathed heavily. He gritted his teeth and said every word. He forced the tears from the corners of his eyes to stop them from falling. This man who usually took care of everything showed such a miserable and painful look for the first time in front of everyone. His eyes were unprecedentedly heavy. It was as if there was a mountain that no one could understand pressing down on him, making it hard for him to breathe. But even in the end, he still wanted to protect the only person he cared about. Facing Daehaeon like this, the second elder couldn't control his emotions. In his opinion, Daehaeon had always been a very filial child. He was very sensible and had never made him sad. Even when he was accused, Daehaeon didn't explain anything. But now, he stood up for him. But it was because of this that the second elder was even sadder. "I don't need you to speak for me," the second elder roared. "If you don't want me to be sad, you shouldn't have done such a thing." In the next moment, the second elder turned and knelt down in front of Ryujue. "Master, everything is my fault. I didn't educate Hao An well, so he took such a detour. I only have one son, Hao An. I beg you, let me take the punishment for him. You can kill me or cut me up, but can you drive him out of the family and let him live on account of what I've done for the family all these years?" Ryujue looked at the second elder and Daehaeon in front of him. His expression was extremely complicated. "Master, I beg you." The second elder's head hit the ground. "Patriarch, please punish me. It really has nothing to do with my father." 2. Father. Daehaeon couldn't hold back his tears anymore. He never thought that his father would do this for him. "I'm not worthy of you doing this for me. I'm not worthy." Daehaeon kowtowed. "It's my fault. Let me take the blame. I beg you, don't do this. You'd rather let me die." "Second elder, get up first." Ryujue couldn't stand it anymore. "I believe you. You won't do anything that will harm the family's interests. Master, are you willing to let Hao An live?" Chapter 54-53. Ryujue did not reply to the second elder's pleading gaze. He understood that the second elder was willing to sacrifice everything for his son. However, because of the spy, Baichen had to lead a wandering life for many years, and Yunqing almost died of depression. He could not forgive all of this. Even if he knew that the Jun family was the culprit, he still could not let the spy go. Second Elder, you must know how serious this situation is. Get up first. At least we need to know why Howen did this. Diujue could not bear to see the Second Elder like this. All these years, the Second Elder had been doing his best for the Jun family. Jun Linyuan had always seen this. Among all the elders, the Second Elder's cultivation was not outstanding. This was because he put more energy into taking care of the Jun family's chores. These chores did not seem like much, but they consumed a lot of energy and time. The Second Elder had never complained. He did not want to believe that the Second Elder's son was a spy. It was a pity. Hearing Diujue's words, the Second Elder's face turned pale. He knew that everything Diujue said was true. This matter was indeed too serious. Even he had been thinking that if he could find the spy, he would definitely tear the spy into pieces to vent the hatred in his heart. However, he never thought that this person would actually be his own son. Master, you are right. The Second Elder nodded. His actions just now were too difficult for the master. Howen, if you still care about our relationship as father and son, you should tell me the real reason. Otherwise, I can only die here with you. The wound on his forehead was a ghastly sight. Blood flowed down from the wound, contrasting with his pale face. It made one's heart tremble. Looking at the Second Elder like this, Daiheoen's face showed a trace of hesitation and struggle. If that's the case, then I will die as an apology. It's better than seeing my son die. Seeing that Daiheoen was still unwilling to speak, the Second Elder was also very desperate. He really didn't understand what kind of bewitching potion the Jun family gave Howen. Even now, Howen was still so stubborn. After realizing that the Second Elder was prepared to die to atone for his sins, Daiheoen hurriedly shouted, "No! I'll talk. I'll say it." Hearing this, Second Elder stopped what he was doing and turned to look at Daiheoen. Almost everyone's eyes fell on Daiheoen. They were very curious. What kind of benefits did the Jun family promise Daiheoen? Diujue sighed as he looked at the Second Elder. He also understood that the Second Elder wanted to use this method to force Daiheoen to reveal everything. "Daiheoen, speak," Diujue said coldly. Daiheoen was silent for a moment. He looked deeply at the Second Elder. A touch of deep pain appeared on his face. His black eyes were full of sorrow. His deep voice was full of helplessness. "Actually, I am not the Second Elder's son." It seemed that Daiheoen used up all his strength to say this sentence. The moment he said it, he seemed to have lost his last trace of strength. He slumped to the ground as if he had lost all his vitality. Chapter 54-54. After hearing the news, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. This was really too shocking. She had thought that maybe Daiheoen was coveting the position of the head of the family, but because he was good at hiding, no one had found out. Maybe the Second Elder was also a spy, and his daily efforts for the family were all just a disguise. However, she had never thought that Daiheoen wasn't a member of the D family. This news, it simply subverted her understanding. Not only Bailey Hongzhuang, but almost everyone present had the same expression. Daiheoen had been growing up in the D family all these years. How could he not be a member of the D family? Diujue and the other elders looked at the painful and desperate face at the moment, and didn't know what to say for a moment. This news made them speechless. The Second Elder opened his eyes wide, and his voice couldn't help but tremble. He said angrily, "Daiheoen, what nonsense are you talking about? For so many years, I raised you with my own hand. How could you not be my son?" Looking at the familiar face, Daiheoen couldn't help but cry. "I also wish I was really your son." Daiheoen's eyes were red, and he couldn't help but cry. "Do you know how painful it was for me to watch you teach me and care for me all these years? I wish you didn't treat me so well. You're so old, and your health is not good, but you still leave all the good things to me. Do you know how much I hate myself every time I hear you say that it's enough as long as I see you well? I hate that I'm not your son. I hate that I'm incompetent. I hate that I'm useless. I hate that I can't be hard-hearted. But I don't have a choice. Daihaoan slammed his hands on the ground. Blood mixed with the mud stood on his broken hands, but he didn't feel any pain at all, because the struggle and pain in his heart were far more painful than the pain in his hands. All these years, he had been surrounded by this kind of guilt and self-blame. In the dead of the night, it made him want to go crazy. Even though he had been discovered, he didn't feel too bad about it. Perhaps this was a form of release for him, allowing him to stop struggling and suffering like this. For so many years, the thing he couldn't face the most was saying such words to his father. Looking at Daihaoan's painful struggle and even hysterical appearance, the second elder stood there in a daze. Even if he still couldn't understand why this happened, he already knew that Daihaoan really wasn't his child. If that wasn't the case, Daihaoan wouldn't have said such words. If you are not my son, then where is my son? The second elder stared at Daihaoan, his reddened eyes filled with nervousness and despair. At this moment, everyone felt extremely conflicted. In fact, there was no need to ask such a question. Everyone had already guessed the answer. It was just that the second elder wasn't willing to give up that slim chance of survival. Daihaoan only looked at the second elder with a complicated expression and didn't say anything. Chapter 54-55. How could this be? The second elder was like a puppet that had lost its soul. He muttered to himself as tears flowed out uncontrollably. This was the first time that the usually smiling second elder had shown such a vulnerable and pained expression in front of everyone. How could this be? His wife had died during childbirth, leaving behind her only child. Since then, he had placed all his hopes on Daihaoan. However, he had never thought that the child he had raised was not his own son. How could he accept this? Second elder. Looking at the second elder's bloodshot eyes, the first elder hurried to his side and said anxiously with concern, "Second elder, you must hold on." At this moment, no one doubted that the second elder was a spy. On the contrary, he was probably the one who had been hurt the most in this entire matter. Although Di Baichen had been wandering outside for years, at least he had returned safely. However, the second elder's child was not so lucky. It turned out that all of this had been arranged by the Jun family. No wonder Daihaoan had done this. He was not a member of the Di family. The Jun family is too hateful. They even dared to do such a thing. The great elder's face was full of anger. The pain of losing a child could not be expressed in words. Even if this had not happened to him, he still found it difficult to accept, let alone the second elder. The Jun family is worse than beasts. Di Baichen's eyes were as cold as ice. This is indeed a trap that no one would have thought of. Not only did they lay their hands on our family's child, but they also used their own family's child. They are truly despicable. If I don't completely eradicate the Jun family, then I am not Diujue. Diujue suddenly said. His cold words exuded an endless murderous aura. A terrible pressure was released, and his handsome face was frighteningly gloomy. Over the years, the Jun family had schemed against them for too long. Even if the two sides often met with weapons, he never thought that the Jun family's methods would be so despicable that they would even use a child. He didn't care about other things, but he couldn't ignore this kind of thing. If Baichen had not been lucky enough to meet Siduyen, he would have lost his life as well. Since the Jun family had already gone this far, wouldn't he be a coward if he didn't teach the Jun family a lesson? Looking at the murderous look on Diujue's face, the Di family also shared a common enemy. If such an opponent was not eliminated as soon as possible, no one knew what would happen in the future. When Daihaoan saw that the second elder was on the verge of breaking down, He felt a wave of pain in his heart. He didn't want to say anything because he didn't want to see the second elder in such pain. Even if he died, perhaps the second elder would not feel so bad. Sometimes it was not a bad thing to be kept in the dark. "Father, you must take care of yourself. Don't call me father." The second elder's bloodshot eyes were filled with hatred. He had actually raised the child of his enemy for so many years. When he thought of his own son, he felt that he was not even worthy of death. If he couldn't avenge his son, then how could he face the child and his mother in the afterlife? Chapter 54-56. The Jun family has indeed gone too far. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head and sighed. She didn't know what to say in the face of such a situation. Daiheowen's actions had undoubtedly touched her, but she couldn't bring herself to criticize him. Daiheowen had indeed gone too far, but in reality, he was also a pitiful guy. He was placed in the D family at such a young age, and faced with the second elder's kindness over the years, he must have been struggling in his heart. She could see that Daiheowen really cared about the second elder. For more than 20 years, he had been living under the care and concern of the second elder. That fatherly love was not fake. Fortunately, at least he still had a conscience and didn't want to hurt the second elder. Unfortunately, this reality was far too cruel for the second elder, and no one would be able to accept it. "Head elder, help the second elder back to rest," Diyujua said. "No, I also want to know what is going on." The second elder refused immediately. If he didn't know what was going on, he wouldn't be able to feel at ease. However, after Diyujua looked at Daiheowen's situation, he said, "Second elder, if you stay here, he won't be able to answer. Don't worry, we will tell you the whole story after we get the answers. You should rest well. Anger will harm your body. You have to live well and wait for us to avenge the real Daiheowen." Hearing this, the second elder looked at Diyujua's determined and serious expression and nodded, "Okay." After the head elder helped the second elder leave, Bailey Hongzhuang sent someone to inform Wu Weiming. The second elder had suffered such a huge blow, and it was inevitable that something would happen. It was better to let Wu Weiming take a look. Diyujua didn't interrogate Daiheowen in front of everyone. Instead, he sent someone to take Daiheowen to the meeting hall. He wanted to figure out how the Jun family had set up such a trap. Originally, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others also planned to go to the Jun residence today. However, they didn't expect to be involved in such a big matter. They still had to figure out everything before setting off. "Ling Xiao, I finally understand now. This Jun family is simply insane. Previously, I thought that Ao Jun Kwang's actions were too incomprehensible, but thinking about the Jun family's scheme, I felt that everything was understandable. The Jun family was most likely the one who came up with this idea." When Ziren was secretly speechless. These people from the Jun family must have a dark heart to do such a thing. These were things that were completely unacceptable to them. However, for the Jun family it was nothing out of the ordinary. Ao Lingxiao's expression darkened. In fact, when Daiheowen spoke earlier, he felt the same way as the second elder. Because, when he was threatened and put on such a big hat, he was also shocked and in disbelief. He saw with his own eyes that his own elder brother had killed his parents, and then framed it all on his own head. That kind of pain was simply indescribable. The scene just now made him feel as if he had returned to the beginning. That kind of feeling was so oppressive that it almost made him collapse. Chapter 54-57. Mo Yunjue didn't know how long he would stay in the D family, but he knew that Hongzhuang would always be there. He didn't want Hongzhuang to be in this kind of trap in the future. This kind of person must be completely eliminated. Only by completely eliminating the Jun family could they be at ease. After being discovered, Daiheowen didn't plan to hide it anymore. In fact, facing the elders in front of him, he was also full of guilt. These elders had always taken care of him when he was growing up and treated him like family. In fact, all these years, He had thought that he might as well treat himself as the real Di Haoan. This was because, compared to what the Di family had done to him, the Jun family was clearly his family. However, they had never made him feel as warm as the Di family. He had also thought of leaving, but in the end, he was still greedy for the warmth here. After understanding everything, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but sigh. It turned out that when the second elder's wife was giving birth, the Jun family had already bribed the midwife and swapped the two children. Dihaoan was the son of the fourth elder of the Jun family. However, his mother's status was low and wasn't valued. Therefore, he was planted as a spy in the Di family. When the Jun family first contacted Dihaoan, he didn't believe it at all. However, when he saw his mother and noticed the face that was extremely similar to his own, he finally understood. Everything he had didn't belong to him at all, but to someone else. At that time, he was very conflicted and didn't want to do anything. However, his mother was controlled by the Jun family. If he didn't do as the Jun family ordered, his mother's life would be in danger. He couldn't just watch the woman who had watched him cry silently die. Therefore, he could only choose to accept everything. However, the process still made him feel extremely painful. In the dead of night, he also broke down, but he had to grit his teeth and persevere. Junhong Qing is really cruel. That fourth elder is also a good-for-nothing. He even used his own son. The seventh elder couldn't help but curse out loud. Just listening to this kind of thing was already unbearable for him. How could the Jun family do something like this? The Jun family has been suppressed by our family for many years. They must have been unable to think of a way to deal with us. That's why they've done something worse than a beast. However, I have to say that we really weren't prepared for this. The eighth elder shook his head and sighed. If the young lord didn't come back this time, once the position of young lord was handed over to Haoan, wouldn't it mean that we would have to surrender the family to someone else? As the eighth elder's voice fell, everyone present broke out in a cold sweat. Indeed, the Jun family's scheme had almost succeeded. This was simply taking everything from the Di family without using a single soldier. Everyone couldn't help but look at Di Baichen. They were really lucky. Otherwise, they would have been finished. Father, since we already know everything, let's go to the Ao family. Di Baichen's face was serious and serious. The Jun family was so despicable. They must be taught a lesson. Since the Jun family had already ambushed them in the Ao family, they would go there and see who was more skilled. Chapter 54-58. A trace of viciousness appeared in Di Yujue's eyes. Junhong Qing almost caused him to lose his family. He would make Junhong Qing pay back this debt 1,000 times over. Almost everyone could feel Di Yujue's surging killing intent. All these years, the Di family had never directly confronted the Jun family because they had many scruples. One of the most important reasons was that the Di family's inheritance still needed the Jun family's token. But now, the Jun family's actions were getting more and more excessive. They could not tolerate it anymore. At the very least, they had to collect the interest first. Not only Di Yujue, but everyone present was filled with anger at this moment. If they did not make the Jun family pay the price, the anger in their hearts would not be quelled. Di Baichen nodded slightly. He also understood that his father had made up his mind to take this opportunity to deal a heavy blow to the Jun family. Even if the two sides would inevitably suffer great losses, his father still decided to make a move. When Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were teleported to the vicinity of the Ao family, they were keenly aware that someone was staring at them. However, everyone pretended to be unaware and walked forward. Ao Lingxiao looked at everything in front of him that was both familiar and strange. His expression was extremely complicated. In the beginning, everything here felt familiar and close to him. Now that he was back here again, he was afraid of returning home. Thinking about what would happen later, he could not help but worry. If the people in the family did not believe him, then what should he do? After all, so many years had passed. Ao Junquang must have already bought the people's hearts. It would not be easy to salvage everything. Everyone also noticed Ao Lingxiao's nervous expression. They could not help but comfort him. Lingxiao, don't worry too much. We are still here. You only need to say what is in your heart. I believe that the people in your family will understand. Who is right and who is wrong, they will have a conclusion in their hearts. Di Beichen said slowly. His eyes were full of trust. Lingxiao, when you became the young master of the family, I believe that even if you were crowned with such a title, many people in the Ao family still had doubts in their hearts. It was just that things happened so suddenly that they didn't have time to think about it. If you go back now, the situation might be different. Bailey Hongzhuang looked serious. After experiencing Dai Haoen's incident, she understood that people actually valued relationship. Even though Dai Haoen's case had such a great impact on the Di family and could be said to be an unforgivable evil existence, after understanding Dai Haoen's suffering, they couldn't help but feel compassion for him. Even to an outsider, Ao Lingxiao was a member of the Ao clan. Those elders who watched Ao Lingxiao grow up would definitely be moved too. Thank you. Ao Lingxiao's lips curled into a smile. I know you're all worried about me. Since I've come here, I'm prepared to fight with my back to the river. Even if the clansmen don't believe me, I will accept it. But at least I can't let the Ao clan fall into Ao Junquang's hands. Even if I have to drag him down to hell with me, I am willing. There were so many elders in the family who were wholeheartedly for the good of the family. Even if they all fell together, the Ao clan would still be passed on. At least, it was much better than the Ao clan being annexed by the Jun family. Chapter 54-59. Seeing that Ao Lingxiao was prepared, Di Beichen and the others looked at each other. Although they didn't think that the situation would be that bad, since Ao Lingxiao had thought of the worst-case scenario, it might not be a bad thing. Lingxiao, the situation won't be that bad. Ao Junquang will definitely go to hell, but you won't. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved into a confident and sunny smile. She believed that the elders of the Ao family couldn't be so blind. That's right. Di Beichen nodded with a smile. No matter how bad the situation is, it won't be a problem to protect you. Under Ao Lingxiao's lead, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others approached the Ao clan. When they arrived at the entrance of the Ao clan, they stopped. Ao Lingxiao was obviously very familiar with the way in. He didn't need to report anything and directly opened the camouflage in front of him. I didn't expect that after so many years, this place hasn't changed at all. Seeing that the camouflage was opened so easily, Ao Lingxiao couldn't help but sigh. The Ao clan was like this in the past. Although the way in hadn't changed, everything had changed. The others didn't find this strange. Usually, a clan's array was very difficult to set up. If it wasn't necessary, the clan wouldn't easily change it. Moreover, Ao Lingxiao was forced to leave the clan alone. The Ao clan didn't need to be afraid and naturally didn't need to change it. As the group walked into the territory of the Ao clan, the cultivators of the Ao clan immediately noticed their appearance. In fact, when Bailey Hongzhuang and the others arrived, they found that Ao Junquang and the cultivators of the Ao clan were already prepared and waiting for them. Looking around, almost all the cultivators of the Ao clan were gathered here. Just the lineup alone was very shocking. Ao Lingxiao, you really have the guts to come back. Seeing that Ao Lingxiao appeared, Ao Junquang's eyes flashed a trace of a proud smile. He was relieved. Previously, he heard from Jun Lingxuan that Ao Lingxiao and the others would definitely come today. He was originally worried that the news might be wrong, but now it seemed that he was overly worried. He didn't expect everything to be so accurate. Ao Lingxiao and the others really arrived today. When the people of the Ao clan saw Ao Lingxiao, their faces were filled with shock and confusion. Ever since Ao Lingxiao disappeared, they thought they would never see him again. It wasn't until the Immortal Cloud secret realm that they heard the news of Ao Lingxiao's return. However, they didn't expect that Ao Lingxiao would return again. This traitor actually has the guts to come back. He should have died a long time ago for doing something worse than a beast. Old Master and Madam treated him so well, but I didn't expect him to be so greedy. Just thinking about it makes my hair stand on end. This time, he brought the D family with him. Could it be that he wants to take back the position of the head of the family? The disciples of the Ao clan all looked at Ao Lingxiao with cold gazes. Originally, they were filled with respect for Ao Lingxiao, but now, they only felt that this fellow was too despicable and detestable to the extreme. A trace of sadness flashed in Ao Lingxiao's eyes as he listened to everyone's misunderstanding and criticism. Back then, when he was forced to leave his family, he was in a similar situation. Chapter 5460. Ao Junquang's eyes were cold, and his tone was full of righteousness. I will personally execute you, you bastard, to comfort my parents in heaven. Looking at Ao Junquang's fake righteousness, Ao Lingxiao's eyebrows were full of ridicule and disgust. Ao Junquang, at that time, you relied on your own good acting ability to deceive everyone. Let me have no way to defend myself. This time, I won't let you pour dirty water on my head like before. Hearing this, Ao Junquang sneered. It's been so long. Everyone saw everything clearly. Don't you think it's ridiculous for you to quibble now? Then, Ao Junquang looked at the elders behind him, asked the elders, do you think anyone will believe you? Ao Lingxiao's gaze turned to the elders. These elders were all very familiar to him. At that time, these elders watched him grow up. Once, the elders looked at him with eyes full of love and kindness, but now there was only strangeness and pain. When the various elders saw Ao Lingxiao again, their feelings were also complicated to the extreme. Lingxiao, I really didn't expect you to do such a thing. The first elder shook his head and sighed. When he first heard the news, he couldn't believe it either. He had been watching Ao Lingxiao grow up. He had seen all his performance over the years. He had always thought that Ao Lingxiao was honest, but he had never thought that his heart was so terrible. The old master was so good to you. No matter what you wanted, as long as you said it, the old master would find a way to satisfy you. However, you used such a method. Alas. Second elder also had a pained expression on his face. Originally, their clan was so harmonious. However, such a situation happened which was really beyond all their expectations. If it wasn't for such a big thing, the family wouldn't have become like this. What's the point of talking nonsense with such a guy? It's just a waste of our feelings. The third elder's eyes were full of disgust and hatred. He hated that he couldn't kill Ao Lingxiao directly. Listening to the elders who used to love him so much, Ao Lingxiao's mood couldn't help but become agitated. First elder, it's not like this at all. I was wronged. Wronged? The first elder frowned. However, Ao Junquang didn't give Ao Lingxiao a chance to explain. He immediately shouted, Men, arrest Ao Lingxiao and punish him according to the family rules. As soon as the words came out, the cultivators of the Ao family immediately stood up, not giving Ao Lingxiao a chance to escape. Seeing that the crowd wanted to arrest Ao Lingxiao, Di Baichen and the others stepped forward and blocked Ao Lingxiao's side. Their meaning was obvious. They wouldn't let anyone who dared to touch Ao Lingxiao. The guards of the Ao clan who were about to forcefully grab Ao Lingxiao also stopped. They didn't know what to do for a while. Let's not care about them, take Ao Lingxiao. Ao Junquang did not care about this. He had already fallen out with the D family, and he was relying on the Jun family. As for his relationship with the family, he didn't care. Plus, he had enough trump cards. There was nothing to be afraid of. Chapter 5461. Seeing Ao Junquang's actions, Ao Lingxiao's gaze became even colder. He knew very well that Ao Junquang didn't want to give him any chance to explain himself. However, he wouldn't let Ao Junquang have his way. Elders, since I'm here, even if you want to catch me, you don't have to be in a hurry. Before that, can you listen to my explanation? Ao Lingxiao looked at the elders earnestly. He didn't care about Ao Zhengquang at all. What he cared about was the opinions of his family members. Hearing this, the elders looked at each other. The great elder said in a deep voice, "Since you want to explain, I'll give you a chance." Everything had happened so suddenly that they didn't even have time to think about it. However, the result had been too shocking. Coupled with Ao Lingxiao's nervous and wooden expression, no one doubted it in the slightest. Even if everyone had already determined the result, since Ao Lingxiao took the initiative to return to the family and asked for a chance to explain, they naturally wouldn't refuse. Compared to everyone's calmness, Ao Zhengquang couldn't help but show a trace of anxiety. He didn't want to give Ao Lingxiao any chance to explain. If Ao Lingxiao took advantage of this opportunity to turn things around, it would be the worst. However, until now, he hadn't seen Jun Lingxuan and the others come. He couldn't help but feel anxious. Logically speaking, Jun Lingxuan should have known that Di Beichen and the others had arrived. Why hadn't they appeared yet? Now that things had come to this point, he didn't want any more unforeseen events to occur. Thinking of this, Ao Zhengquang immediately winked at the third elder. The third elder immediately understood and his cold voice rang out. "Great elder, why listen to his explanation? He couldn't explain at the beginning. Now that so much time has passed, even if it's a lie, it's already smooth. What's the point of listening?" Following the third elder's words, many of the elders who had been bribed by Ao Zhengquang also agreed. Yes, it's meaningless to listen to this now. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but say, "I'm afraid these guys have been bribed by Ao Zhengquang. It's good to see them stand out one by one now. Remember who they are. When the time comes, these guys can't be put in important positions." Di Beichen's eyes were calm, and his expression was extremely relaxed. Ao Zhengquang has been the patriarch for so many years, there must be someone who is dead set on following him. The Jun family wouldn't have chosen to support him if he didn't have the means to do so. After Di Beichen's voice fell, the originally tense situation inexplicably felt a little funny. So, was this considered as using Ao Lingxiao's hand to eliminate the dissidents? Ao Lingxiao was still nervous. He didn't pay attention to the other elders. His gaze was fixed on the first elder and second elder. He knew very well that these two elders had always been fair and impartial. Even if Ao Zhengquang became the patriarch, he believed that the two elders would not change their standards. It was precisely because of this that these two elders were highly respected in the family. "Great elder, I was really wronged. If it weren't for this, I wouldn't have come back today." "That's not necessarily true." Ao Zhengquang sneered. "Aren't you just greedy for the patriarch's position?" Back then, it was also because of this that he had done something that angered both men and God. Chapter 5462. Ao Zhengquang, stop spouting venomous slander. Ao Lingxiao angrily cursed. "All of this is just you framing me." As Ao Lingxiao's voice fell, everyone's expression changed slightly. Many people didn't expect Ao Lingxiao to say such words. "This is just your sophistry. There is no evidence at all. It's just a joke." Ao Zhengquang snorted coldly, "Come, catch him now and punish him according to his family law." "Wait," the great elder suddenly said, "since Ao Lingxiao is back, let's listen to him clearly. Whether he did it or not, we want a reason." "Great elder, patriarch, Lingxiao is still your younger brother. I believe you want to know the reason behind all this." The great elder directly blocked Ao Zhengquang's words and didn't give him a chance to speak again. Seeing this, Ao Zhengquang's face was a little ugly. Even if he had become the master, the great elder was the most respected existence in the family. He couldn't ignore his thoughts. What's more, if he was too obvious, it would also arouse suspicion. "Now you can speak," the great elder said slowly. Ao Lingxiao glanced at the crowd and said, "I didn't explain at that time. I said that everything was Ao Zhengquang's doing. He just framed everything on me, that's all. Although my explanation was a little weak compared to what he said, it was because he had planned for a long time and I was in shock that such a situation happened. Father gave me the position of the master. What reason do I have to do this? The position of the master? Ao Ling Xiao asked and answered his own question. If it was for this, I didn't need to do this at all. On the contrary, such a name will only hinder my future. It's not worth it. But Ao Zhengquang is different. Father and mother are dead, and I am wronged. The only one who benefits is him. Ao Ling Xiao pointed his right hand at Ao Zhengquang. His loud voice was like a warning bell in everyone's heart. Ao Zhengquang's face changed when he heard this accusation. He had already guessed that Ao Ling Xiao would ask all these questions. After all, Di Beichen and the others had already rendered him speechless when they were on the flying artifact to the Immortal Cloud secret realm. In fact, until now, he still couldn't find a better explanation for these words. Ao Zhengquang could not help but feel anxious. He did not understand why Jun Lingxuan had not appeared yet. If he let the situation continue to develop, it would not benefit him at all. He couldn't let everyone's trust in him waver. He had spent many years accumulating this trust. If they were defeated just like that, it would be really troublesome in the future. Everyone, don't listen to his nonsense. He did such a thing with such thoughts in mind. If I hadn't happened to run into him, his plan would have succeeded. No one would believe me. He's standing on the side of justice. Ao Zhengquang's voice rang out. He looked at Ao Lingxiao with a burning gaze, his voice as cold as ice. Don't think that you can change everything just because you've turned the spearhead to me. Everyone knows this very well. Chapter 54-63. Looking at Ao Zhengquang, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others also understood why Ao Lingxiao had been beaten so badly that he couldn't even fight back. At least, in terms of acting, he was no match for Ao Zhengquang. If they didn't know the truth, they would have chosen to stand on Ao Zhengquang's side after seeing his expression. This man was very shrewd. Thinking about it, he must have spent a lot of effort to achieve this. He must have used all his strength to practice this expression every day. It was because of this that he was able to disguise himself impeccably. He made people choose to believe him when there were many doubtful points. This method was really amazing. Now, he was using the same trick again. I finally understand why Ling Xiao was defeated by him previously. It's really hard to tell the difference between the real and the fake. Shangguan Yingying couldn't help but sigh. She had always thought that Ao Ling Xiao was too slow and didn't know how to explain things. Now, it seemed that even if she was in his shoes, the situation wouldn't be any better. After seeing Ao Zhengquang's expression, the people who had been doubting him calmed down again. Ao Lingxiao naturally noticed this as well, and his brows knitted together again. Back then, he was also forced to be speechless by Ao Zhengquang's acting skills in front of everyone. Even now, this guy's ability to disguise was still so powerful. Everything he said paled in comparison to this perfect performance. In the next moment, a touch of determination and madness appeared in Ao Lingxiao's eyes. He suddenly raised his head and said in a heavy and powerful voice, "Elders, I can give up everything in my family. I am even willing to give up my life. I only want to avenge my parents and prove my innocence. I am willing to cut my throat on the spot, but I only hope that you can believe me. No matter what, I can't let this bastard who killed his parents get away with it. Otherwise, even if I go to hell, I can't face my parents." As Ao Lingxiao's voice fell, the thousands of people gathered in the field suddenly quieted down. All the noise disappeared at this moment. Everyone widened their eyes and looked at the crazy and serious face in disbelief. They never thought that Ao Lingxiao would make such a choice. Using death to prove his innocence. He wanted to use death to prove his innocence. At this moment, everyone couldn't help but be moved. The great elder looked at Ao Lingxiao in shock. If he still believed in Ao Zhengquang before, then at this moment, his thoughts began to change. If all of this was really done by Ao Ling Xiao, then since he had escaped, there was no need for him to use death to prove his innocence. The only reason he did this was to prove his innocence, and not let everyone be played by Ao Zhengquang. Isn't this action of the second young master a little too shocking? I think he doesn't look like he's acting. Using death to prove his sincerity, what kind of determination and conviction is this? I think what he said might be true. Lower your voice. You can't talk about this kind of thing carelessly. We still don't know. Maybe the second young master wants to use this method to make us believe in him. Chapter 54-64. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others couldn't help but worry when they heard Ao Lingxiao's words. This was actually the worst decision they could think of, but they didn't expect Ao Lingxiao to say it so directly. However, in the current situation, if he wanted the elders to be willing to believe him, he was afraid that this was the only way for them to change their views. Master, I feel that it won't be easy to make a comeback in this situation. Xiao He frowned. There was no evidence of the matter at that time. It was completely based on who said it more realistically. However, Ao Zhengquang's acting skills are really good. If there was evidence, then this guy wouldn't be so arrogant. This matter happened many years ago. No matter how you look at it, Ao Lingxiao is at a disadvantage. Xiao Bai couldn't help but worry. This kind of situation really made people feel uneasy. When Ao Zhengquang heard Jun Lingxuan say such words, his heart couldn't help but tremble. Then, he found that the elders' gazes towards Ao Lingxiao began to change. It was obvious that some of them were beginning to believe his words. This wasn't the situation he wanted to see. If everyone was really persuaded by Ao Lingxiao, then he would be finished. Thinking back to the time when the elders believed in Ao Lingxiao, he absolutely didn't want to see that scene again. When the third elder saw this, he couldn't help but look at Ao Zhengquang. Ao Lingxiao had already said this, so it was really difficult for him to continue. I didn't expect the Ao family to be so lively today. Even the D family has come. At this time, a clear voice came from afar. It was 30% joking and 70% casual. Hearing this familiar voice, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others knew that Jun Lingxuan had arrived. When Ao Zhengquang saw Jun Lingxuan appear, it was as if he had seen his savior. He was relieved and felt a lot more at ease. As long as Jun Lingxuan was here, this conflict could be turned into a conflict between the D family and the Jun family. It would be easy to stop Ao Lingxiao from continuing. In their line of sight, they saw Jun Lingxuan slowly walking over with Xiao Shou beside him. The two of them were like a golden couple, attracting everyone's attention. The elders of the Ao family frowned when they saw that Jun Lingxuan and Yi Shiwen had also appeared. The situation was already very complicated. Now, the Jun family and the Xiao family had joined in as well. In other words, the current situation was completely out of their control. The initiative had already fallen into the hands of others. This wasn't good news for them. From the moment Xiao Shou appeared, her gaze fell on Bailey Hongzhuang. A bone-deep hatred and murderous intent quietly bloomed. It was all because of this damned woman. She had taken away the position of the holy maiden that she cared about the most. Even though it had been some time since that day, she still felt as if she was still in the same place. That humiliation had always surrounded her, making her feel uncomfortable. Now, just by feeling everyone's gaze, she recalled the scene from that day. Under everyone's watchful eyes, she had lost all her face. Today, she must make Bailey Hongzhuang kowtow in front of her and beg for mercy. Then, she would give her a fatal blow. She wanted this woman to know the price of offending her. Chapter 54-65. Jun Lingxuan, why are you here? Di Beichen's face turned gloomy. His eyes flashed with surprise, revealing his inner turmoil. Noticing this, Jun Lingxuan's eyes became more complacent. What? Only you are allowed to come, and I am not allowed to come? You know, we are allies with the Ao family. On the contrary, you are here to find trouble. If we are not here to help, wouldn't the Ao family be bullied by you for no reason? Ao Junquang saw this and his face also showed a look of relief. Yes, your D family is a big family. Today, you are coming aggressively. If not for young Master Jun and Miss Zhao's help, I'm afraid I can't stop you at all. Speaking of which, today is really a coincidence. We were just thinking of going to the Ao family and bumped into you. Jun Ling Sun's lips curled up as he asked with a smile, Di Beichen, are you surprised? He was very proud when he knew that Di Beichen and the others were nearby. It seemed that the information they received was indeed correct. Taking advantage of this opportunity, they could finally catch Di Beichen and the others in one fell swoop. He had been looking forward to this day for a long time. Listening to Jun Lingshuan's words, Di Beichen sneered. You are always like a ghost. I have long been used to it. Seeing that Di Beichen pretended to be calm, Jun Lingshuan said disdainfully, Di Beichen, don't pretend. I can imagine your current mood. If you want to imagine, then imagine. Anyway, you have a rich imagination. These words sounded neither salty nor light, but in Jun Lingshuan's ears, no matter how he heard them, they didn't sound right. Was he mocking him? Di Beichen, how come he has a rich imagination? Shangguan Yingying couldn't help but ask. Every day, you rely on your imagination to defeat me. Isn't that a rich imagination? Pfft. Shangguan Yingying laughed without giving him any face. This joke was really interesting. Jun Lingshuan's face instantly turned livid, but then he heard Bailey Hongzhuang say, So, Xiao Sou's imagination is quite rich. No wonder they are called a match made in heaven. The cultivators of the Ao clan looked at each other. Was this how a match made in heaven should be used? Xiao Sou's unfriendly expression became even more sinister, and her eyes were as deep as water. Bailey Hongzhuang, don't think that you're so great just because you've become the holy maiden of light. I remember when you thought you were the saintess of the light, you always acted like you were something. Bailey Hongzhuang told the truth with an innocent expression. You. Xiao Sou's face was filled with anger. Her livid face had already swelled to the color of pig liver. Even her ears had begun to fill with blood. However, she suddenly relaxed. You can be arrogant. Let's see how long you can be arrogant for. This time, the clan had already sent out their forces. Whether it was Bailey Hongzhuang or Di Beichen, it was impossible for them to leave alive. Moreover, these people who had helped Bailey Hongzhuang to belittle him would all die here this time. Then you'll have to watch carefully. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows and said with a smile. In the next second, Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang looked at each other. They also understood why Xiao Sou was able to restrain her anger. Obviously, she was waiting to deal with them later. Chapter 5466. On the contrary, they were also looking forward to the confrontation with the Jun family. After so many years of grudges, although there was often friction between the disciples of both sides had never really gone to war. However, this time, no matter if it was the other side or them, they all came with the intention of killing each other. Jun Lingshuan, let's put aside the personal grudges between us for now. What we need to solve now is the matter of the Ao family. Let's not disturb each other, okay? Di Beichen stared at Jun Lingshuan with his deep black eyes. Even if there would be an unavoidable battle between them later, the more important goal today was to help Ao Lingxiao clear his name. When he agreed to come with Ao Lingxiao, it was to give him the confidence to explain everything that had happened. If he used this as an opportunity to catch the spy and fight with the Jun family, it would be too inappropriate. Hearing this, Jun Lingshuan was very indifferent. He didn't care about the grudges of the Ao family at all. He didn't believe that Ao Lingxiao could change everyone's opinion. Moreover, even if it did, it had nothing to do with the Jun family. Okay. Seeing that Jun Lingshuan was about to agree to Di Beichen, Ao Junquang couldn't help but feel anxious. He quickly gave a signal with his eyes. The situation now was not the same as before. It was extremely unfavorable for him now. Jun Lingxuan noticed Ao Lingxiao's expression and was a little surprised. Logically speaking, after knowing that Di Beichen and the others would come today, Ao Zhengquang had been preparing for a long time to deal with them. They had thought of all kinds of situations. It should be impossible for them to not have the ability to resist. However, Ao Zhengquang was asking for help at this moment. Obviously, there was a problem. Ao Zhengquang naturally didn't think that Ao Lingxiao would say such a crazy thing. Generally speaking, what people cared about the most was their own life. Even if they were splashed with dirty water, there was no need to risk their lives. Now, he was going to drag him down with him. Di Beichen, don't talk to me about these useless things. Since we've met today, we should settle the score properly. The change in Jun Lingxuan's attitude was too fast, and everyone was keenly aware of it. Di Beichen looked at Ao Zhengquang meaningfully. It seems that someone doesn't want Jun Lingxuan to speak. The great elder and the others knew that there were many suspicious points. Even if they saw Ao Lingxiao in the room, it might not be enough to prove that he was the culprit. Most importantly, Ao Lingxiao's reaction at this moment was indeed somewhat suspicious. Di Beichen, stop slandering me. Ao Zhengquang jumped up anxiously as if someone had stepped on his tail. Everything that Ao Lingxiao is saying now is just sophistry. He just wants to use this method to win everyone's sympathy and make everyone suspect me. In this way, your plan can succeed, but I won't let you do as you wish. The next moment, Ao Zhengquang seemed to have made a huge decision. He suddenly said, Elders, I understand that Ao Lingxiao's words have shocked you and even made you suspect me. I also understand that he wanted to frame me but failed. He has been unwilling to accept it. Since that's the case, I'll take him down with me. This will be the last bit of strength I can do for my family. Chapter 5467. Ao Zhengquang seemed to have thrown caution to the wind and was ready to sacrifice himself for the family. His eyes were resolute and firm, revealing a trace of unconcealable pain. Lingxiao, let us brothers go to hell to meet our parents today. Drama queen, this guy is really a drama queen. Shangguan Yingying couldn't help but curse out loud. After coming here today, she was simply watching this guy's performance. Ao Lingxiao faced this kind of Ao Zhengquang. His heart was furious to the extreme, but he didn't know what to say. At least, in terms of acting, he really couldn't compete with Ao Zhengquang. What the hell is going on? I'm confused. It's really hard to explain now. I feel that the second young master didn't seem like this guy, but the family head didn't seem to be lying either. One of them must be lying. Now that I think about it, their ability to disguise is too amazing. At this moment, everyone was confused. The only thing they were sure of was that one of the two people's acting skills was too amazing. A group of elders was also constantly thinking in their minds. What was the truth at that time? Aside from Ao Lingxiao and Ao Zhengquang, no one else knew, so they could only judge based on their own thoughts. Di Beichen, don't think about helping Ao Lingxiao turn the tables. Family head Ao has already said so much. What else do you want? Jun Lingxuan lazily looked at Di Beichen. Everything has already been determined. Even if you don't want to admit it now, it's useless. You don't have any evidence at all. Just relying on this mouth is completely useless. Xiao Shou also sneered. Why should everyone believe him? Unless there is a third person present or you have solid evidence, don't waste everyone's time here. Ao Lingxiao furrowed his brows. If he hadn't panicked and allowed Ao Lingxiao to convince everyone, the situation wouldn't have fallen to such a state. Noticing that the situation was beginning to change, the third elder also said, Ao Lingxiao, if you can't produce evidence, you can't avoid being punished by the family rules today. Ao Lingxiao's face turned pale as he faced the crowd's questioning. Evidence? Indeed, he didn't. When he thought about how he had prepared for so long, but in the end it was all for naught, a pained expression appeared on his face. His parents had died so unjustly. As their son, He couldn't even find the real murderer for them. However, at this moment, Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly said, "Evidence? Who said there isn't?" As soon as these words were spoken, everyone present was stunned. Their shocked and astonished gazes were focused on Bailey Hongzhuang. "Did I hear wrongly? The Saint of Light said that she has evidence? It's been so long since that incident. How could there still be evidence?" If there was evidence, second young master would have said it long ago. He wouldn't have waited until now. Not only the cultivators of the Ao family, but even Shangguan Yingying and the others were stunned. They did not understand why Bailey Hongzhuang would suddenly say such a thing. "Ziren, what's going on?" Shangguan Yingying nudged Ziren with her elbow and asked curiously in a low voice. Chapter 5468. Seeing that when Ziren didn't know what was going on, Shangguan Yingying stood quietly at the side. She believed that Bailey Hongzhuang must have her reasons for doing so. Maybe she really had evidence. Even if this possibility was very small, but with her understanding of Bailey Hongzhuang, she would never speak empty words. After Ao Zhengquang heard Bailey Hongzhuang's words, he couldn't help but be shocked and panicked subconsciously. When he did such a thing, he was also extremely nervous, but there shouldn't be any evidence left. "Young Master Jun, what does Bailey Hongzhuang mean?" Ao Zhengquang transmitted his voice. If possible, he really didn't want to deal with Bailey Hongzhuang. This woman always had the ability to subvert things. How stable was Xiao Sou's identity as the Holy Maiden of Light? However, after meeting Bailey Hongzhuang, all of this had a huge change. Now that Bailey Hongzhuang had turned the spearhead to the Ao family, he couldn't help but be worried. "Don't panic." Jun Lingxuan was very calm. "When you did that thing, Bailey Hongzhuang hadn't come to the upper realm yet. How could she have something on you? If Ao Lingxiao had it, he would have taken it out long ago. Why would he wait until now? Then what does she mean by this?" After a short period of nervousness, Ao Zhengquang calmed down a little, and his mind began to work quickly. "In my opinion, she most likely wants to take this opportunity to blow you up. If you accidentally reveal some clues, then they will have evidence." Although it was a guess, Jun Lingxuan's tone was extremely firm. He had been dealing with Bailey Hongzhuang and the others for a long time. He knew that these guys were very treacherous, so the best strategy was to bide his time. "Yes, you must not be nervous," Xiao Sou also said. "Since she dug such a big hole, let's see how she's going to clean it up later." A confident and expectant smile appeared on her beautiful face. Xiao Sou looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with sparkling eyes. It was as if she could foresee Bailey Hongzhuang being humiliated. "Since you have evidence, just take it out so that everyone won't have to guess," Jun Lingxuan said lightly. "That's right. I really didn't expect you to be so powerful. You've clearly only arrived in the upper realm 2 years ago, yet you've managed to obtain evidence of something that happened many years ago. If this were to spread, wouldn't it be shocking?" Xiao Sou teased. He was obviously flattering Bailey Hongzhuang, but his words directly revealed the problem. After hearing this, the elders of the Ao clan also had expressions of disbelief. If Ao Lingxiao had evidence, they might have believed it. However, if Bailey Hongzhuang had evidence, then this was a complete joke. Most importantly, from Ao Lingxiao's shocked expression, it was clear that he didn't have any evidence at all. Wasn't this just toying with them? "Hongzhuang, even if you fail today, it's fine. Don't ruin your reputation because of me." Ao Lingxiao couldn't help but worry. Now, Bailey Hongzhuang's identity was no longer the same as before. She was the young mistress of the D family and the Saint of Light. With these two identities added together, she was destined to be extraordinary. If they made a fool of themselves today, Jun Lingxuan and Xiao Sou definitely wouldn't let go of this opportunity. At that time, Bailey Hongzhuang would be greatly affected. Chapter 5469. "Aren't you the one who knows best whether I'm a celestial being or not?" Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Xiao Sou with a smile. Even though the majority of the people present didn't believe her words, she still had a calm and confident look on her face. It was as if all the remarks weren't directed at her. Xiao Sou's gaze suddenly became gloomy. Looking at the bright and beautiful face in front of her, she really wanted to rush up and destroy it. This woman, no matter what, always had a confident look on her face. And it was this kind of expression that made her very unhappy. Then I'm really curious. If you have the ability, then take out the evidence. Otherwise, you're treating everyone here as fools. Xiao Su spread out her hands and looked at the people around her. The corner of her mouth once again raised into a mocking smile. The dignified Holy Maiden of Light, if you spout nonsense in front of others and say something unreliable, it would be very interesting if word got out. As soon as these words came out, the cultivators of the Xiao and Jun families couldn't help but chuckle. Big sister, isn't she obviously lying? But this kind of cheap trick, no one would be fooled by it. Xiao Sudong's face was full of disdain. He used to think that Bailey Hongzhuang was quite clever, but today, he felt that Bailey Hongzhuang was simply brainless. Holy Maiden of Light, if you really have evidence, I hope you can take it out. This is very important to our family. The great elder's calm voice was filled with sincerity. He believed that the Saint of Light would not casually say something so uncouth. As the great elder of the family, and also the uncle of the deceased family head, he hoped to know the truth. Now, whether it was Ao Zhengquang or Ao Lingxiao, their behavior made him suspicious. But even if everyone didn't believe Ao Lingxiao in his heart, he still believed that Ao Lingxiao wouldn't do such a thing. He watched Ao Zhengquang and Ao Lingxiao grow up and understood their temperament very well. But at that time, they all saw Ao Lingxiao holding a dagger in his hand in the house, which made them believe everything. If there was evidence, then he could be completely at ease. He didn't want to be deceived by that bastard who killed his parents for a lifetime. Then, he would become a sinner of the Ao clan. When the second elder saw that the first elder was actually so serious, he was also a little surprised. However, when he saw the enchanting figure standing proudly in front of him, he understood. Because Bailey Hongzhuang was too young, they always subconsciously ignored her identity as the Saint of Light. Although Xiao Su was also young, her reputation had been around for a long time. Everyone had subtly gotten used to it. On the other hand, Bailey Hongzhuang was a figure who had risen to fame in the past 2 years. Everyone had not completely accepted this change. However, since she had such a status, it was naturally impossible for her to speak nonsense without any scruples in such an occasion. First Elder, Bailey Hongzhuang is obviously talking nonsense. How can you still believe her? Ao Zhengquang was speechless for a while. He only thought that the great elder was getting more and more muddle-headed as he got older. He was confused because of his concern, so there was a moment of panic. But the great elder didn't have to go that far. The words of the Holy Maiden of Light are naturally not false. The great elder still insisted. Chapter 5470. Back then, there was no evidence at all. On the contrary, all the evidence pointed towards Ao Zhengquang. Even after so many years, he still had no way to change everything. Therefore, when he returned this time, he was more prepared to kill Ao Zhengquang. In this way, he could be considered to have avenged his parents. As for the rest, he no longer cared. Even if he were to fall in the Ao clan, it would be worth it. At least, the Ao clan would not fall into the hands of this ambitious man. Of course, he wanted to take back the clan. However, unless Jun Lingxuan and Ao Zhengquang revealed the truth, he had no bargaining chip. Seeing Ao Lingxiao so worried, Di Beichen smiled and patted his shoulder. His handsome face was free and easy. Don't worry. Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at Di Beichen and realized that Di Beichen was looking at her with trust. Even if he did not know what she was planning to do, Di Beichen was also full of trust. If that's the case, then I will take out the evidence and clear Ao Lingxiao's name. The corners of Bailey Hongzhuang's lips rose slightly. Her proud figure set off her confident face, as dazzling as the sun, attracting everyone's attention. Xiao Souo looked at Bailey Hongzhuang lazily. The so-called evidence did not exist. In the next moment, a porcelain bottle appeared in Bailey Hongzhuang's hand. Saintess, what is this? The great elder looked at Bailey Hongzhuang suspiciously. Naturally, he had heard of Bailey Hongzhuang's identity as an alchemist. However, why would she take out a pill at this time? I wonder if the great elder has heard of the truth pill? Bailey Hongzhuang's voice was gentle. She was also very respectful towards the great elder. Based on his current performance, the great elder was obviously a fair and impartial existence. Moreover, even though Ao Zhengquang had been the clan leader for so many years, the great elder was not bribed by him. Most importantly, she understood from the great elder's attitude towards Ao Ling Xiao that he was a person who valued friendship and righteousness. This was something that deserved everyone's respect. As Bailey Hongzhuang finished speaking, everyone present was stunned. Truth pill? The great elder was also a little surprised. However, after thinking about it carefully, he remembered something related to it. Saintess, are you talking about the pill that will make people speak only the truth after consuming it? Although this kind of medicinal pill was not helpful for cultivation, it could play a huge role in many cases, especially during interrogation. It could be used in the simplest way to get everything he wanted to know. However, the recipe for such a pill had been lost many years ago. Everyone felt very helpless about this. It was a pity that many precious treasures had disappeared in the long flow of history. However, now that Bailey Hongzhuang had mentioned the truth pill, everyone was very surprised. Could it be that Bailey Hongzhuang still had this lost recipe? Not only the great elder, but the other cultivators also understood the preciousness of the truth pill after a short moment of surprise. They all looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in astonishment. If she really had the recipe for the truth pill, it would be amazing. Jun Lingxuan could not help but be stunned when he heard about the truth pill. He frowned and his eyes were full of suspicion. The truth pill has disappeared for many years. The relevant records can only be seen in the history book. Bailey Hongzhuang mentioned this out of the blue. Could it be that there really is one?